Welcome to this lesson, and in this lesson we'll be treating cell theory, structure and function. So let's see what we have as definition of cell. Cell is the basic unit of life, forming the structural and functional foundation of all living organisms. So the cell theory is a fundamental principle in biology, providing insights into the origin, organization and functionality of cells. So what are cells in simple form? So cells are cell is that smallest and functional unit of life. So it actually is governed by what is called the cell theory, and this theory is a fundamental principle in biology that helps to provide insight to how the living organisms they originate, and also how they are being organized and how they function. So now cell theory states that the cell theory actually has three essential ideas. So, and these ideas states that all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. So this is where the idea of unicellular or multicellular came about. So this first theory states that all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. So the second theory is that the cell is the basic unit of structure and organization in organisms. So it is the second theory states that cell is actually that smallest, that's what I mean by basic, the smallest unit of structure and organization in every living organism. So it's that unit that actually the smallest possible unit that is actually organized and has a definite structure in living organism. And the third is also saying that the third theory states that all cells arise from pre-existing cells through cell division. So this third theory is trying to propose that all cells you actually see to exist, they actually don't just happen to form by themselves. Before you see the existence of any cell, it has to actually have originated from a previously existing cell. So all cells originated from a previous existing cell, and the method at which they used to be generated was called cell division. So this method is actually what is responsible for the generation of new types of cells. So now let's see the next slide. It says the cells vary in structure and complexity. So truly, according to the first cell theory, they said that there are different types of cells. We have there are different types of organisms rather. We have both the unicellular and multicellular organisms. So there are two major types of cell. And these two major types of cells, we have prokaryotic cells and also eukaryotic cells. So the prokaryotic cells are those cells which lack a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So what does this mean? There are two types of cells, and these cells, we say that cells, they are the smallest structural, functional and organized units of life. So there is a proposition that there is a kind of cell, there is a type of cell that is called the prokaryotic cell, and this particular type of cell, they are said not to have a core center, that's called the nucleus, and they don't have their organelles, that's the different units inside each of these cells. Inside this kind of cells, they don't have a kind of membrane bounding them together. So that was these prokaryotic cells are. So they're the kind of cells that don't have nucleus, and also they don't have a membrane bound for the organelles. So while the eukaryotic cells, they are said to be well defined, they have nucleus and they have specialized organelles, meaning that each of those units, smaller units inside the cell, they have specific functions, they have specific activities that they carry out within that cell. So let's see what it looks like. So this is a typical structure for a eukaryotic cell. So it always includes a plasma membrane, a nucleus, cytoplasm, various organelles such as mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, lysosome, ribosome, and several other organelles. So each of these components, they play specific roles in maintaining cell functions. So this is a simple diagram for an eukaryotic cell rather. So these kind of cells are those kind of cells that they have a nucleus. So from the center you can see this greenish stuff that is called the nucleus. So this greenish stuff is seen as the core of this kind of cell. So they are different from the prokaryotic cell in that they have this nucleus, this center that is like a focus center for the cell. And also this cell, as we can see, they have several organs. The same with the prokaryotic cell, they have different organelles, but these organelles now, they are not held by the membrane. But for eukaryotic cells, they have the membrane, that's this environment that they are staying that restricts them from movement. They have a specific domain. So, and they have also specific functions which they carry out within the cell. So just like as if the cell is the general name for the whole body of this kind of stuff, and then the different mini parts inside the cell are what are called the organelles. So now let's see. Functions of cell includes metabolism, growth, response to stimuli, and also reproduction. So these are basic characteristics of living organisms. So what is responsible for these basic characteristics of living organisms are called cells. So these functions that cells carry out are basic functions such as growth, which is one of the major characteristics of living organism, is also response to stimuli, reproduction, and also metabolism. So the organelles work together to ensure that cellular processes occur efficiently and accurately, enabling that organisms survive and function effectively. So as we have cells, as I explained, they are just like the housing, the body. Yeah, like the body, the main organism. Like how we have humans. We have humans. Humans are likened to, like, let's, if I wanted to use a likening, I'll say humans are the cells. Then the different organs inside the human body that allow the human body function properly are called the organelles. So in case of cells now, the main body is called the cell, and its different organelles inside it, the different portions that help in the functioning of this cell are called the organelles. So as we said, for eukaryotic cells, these organelles, they have specific functions, and each of these organelles have their own definite and unique functions. So let's move on to our next slide. So understanding the structure and function of cells is vital in biology, medicine, and also biotechnology. It helps to explain how life operates at a microscopic level. So the smallest level, as I said, they are the smallest units of life. They are the smallest, most organized units of life. So understanding these cells, it helps in fields like medicine, biotechnology, and also biology, and it helps to explain how life operates in a microscopic level and how various diseases affect cellular functions. So in conclusion, we can say that cell theory forms the bedrock for biological science, and cells, through their structure and specialized functions, support lives of organisms and provide platforms for studying health, growth, and diseases. So these small entities called cells, they give an overview of how larger organisms behave. So they are the smallest active units that behave in an organized pattern. So this smallest unit now, studying these units can help you understand how larger sized organisms also would behave. So with all this being said, I would say we've come to an end of this lesson, and we'll see you in the next lesson.